Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Gates channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and hit like for more daily drama updates and spoilers. Your support truly means a lot and helps our channel grow every day. The latest Beyond the Gates spoilers for August 17th, 21 promise a week filled with old temptations, uncomfortable truths, emotional confrontations, and relationships pushed to their breaking points. Andre is about to come face to face with a chapter of his past that refuses to stay buried, and the timing could not be more dangerous because his relationship with Danny is already under strain. Meanwhile, Eva gives Leslie a brutally honest reality check, forcing her mother to confront feelings she has been trying to avoid, while Vernon pays a visit to Bill in the hospital for a reason that has nothing to do with simply wishing him well. Before the week is over, Vernon intends to find out exactly what Bill wants from Danny, and he is clearly not interested in accepting vague answers or carefully chosen excuses. At the same time, several lighter moments unfold around the Dupree family, creating a fascinating contrast between celebration and conflict. As the new week begins, every character seems to be standing at the edge of a decision that could change everything. The preview kicks off with a big surprise as Jacob, Ashley, and Grayson gather together to bring some much-needed happiness and festive energy to Naomi. Naomi has been carrying the heavy emotional burden of dealing with her father's health problems, so this celebration gives everyone a chance to momentarily push those worries aside and simply enjoy being together. The atmosphere feels warm and cheerful as the four partygoers raise their glasses and cans in a toast, enthusiastically calling out, "Salud!" For a brief moment, the stress surrounding Naomi seems to fade into the background, replaced by laughter, togetherness, and the comforting feeling of having people around who genuinely want to see her smile. But as Beyond the Gates often reminds us, even the happiest moments can exist only temporarily when deeper family tensions are waiting just beneath the surface. And that becomes clear when Chelsea and Kat sit down with none other than the queen herself, Anita Dupree, ready to present a business idea they are genuinely excited about. Unfortunately for them, the reaction they receive from their grandmother is anything but the enthusiastic approval they were hoping for. Chelsea and Kat cautiously present their idea, hoping Anita will see the potential behind it, but their confidence begins to disappear when their proposed name comes up. Kat carefully suggests calling the venture the Nikki, only for Anita to respond with a reaction that makes it immediately clear they may have stepped into dangerous territory. "Child, are you trying to get disowned?" Anita fires back, turning what was supposed to be an exciting business conversation into an unexpectedly tense family moment. The problem is that Nikki is a name Leslie often uses for Nicole, and that connection is clearly not something Anita is prepared to ignore. What Chelsea and Kat may have intended as a clever or meaningful choice suddenly feels like a direct invitation for family complications. Their pitch is met with resistance, leaving the two women facing a grandmother whose approval they desperately wanted, but clearly are not going to receive so easily. And while their business idea may have seemed harmless at first, the reaction proves once again that in the Dupree family, even a single name can carry years of history and emotion. While that family tension unfolds, Andre finds himself pulled directly into a much more personal danger when the woman from his past finally steps back into his life. Heather has been the mysterious figure sending messages to Andre and even sending bottles of champagne to his wife, Danny, creating an unsettling sense that someone has been deliberately moving closer to their marriage from the shadows. Now, the mystery surrounding Heather becomes much clearer because she is not simply some stranger with an unexplained interest in Danny. She and Andre share a history, and that history is suddenly standing directly in front of him again. When Andre sees Heather, he nervously tells her that it is good to see her, but there is an unmistakable tension behind those words, as though he knows immediately that reconnecting with her could open a door he should never have touched. Heather, however, seems far more comfortable with the situation and responds by reminding him that now he can thank her in person. As the preview shows the two of them standing extremely close together, the atmosphere becomes charged with the possibility of something dangerous, complicated, and deeply personal returning to Andre's life. Heather's presence also sheds new light on why she has been making such an effort to befriend Danny. What initially appeared to be a strange attempt at friendship now carries an entirely different meaning, especially considering Heather's history with Andre and the fact that she has already been sending champagne to his wife. There is something deliberate about the way Heather has positioned herself around Danny, and Andre is now forced to confront the possibility that none of it happened by accident. His relationship with Danny is already going through a difficult period, making the timing of Heather's return even more threatening. The emotional distance between Andre and Danny creates an opening that Heather may be more than willing to exploit, whether intentionally or simply because their old connection still has a powerful hold over both of them. And the closer Andre gets to Heather, the harder it becomes to believe that his past will remain safely in the past. This is not merely an old acquaintance returning for a friendly reunion. It feels like a temptation arriving at precisely the moment Andre is most vulnerable to it. Elsewhere, Ava is exhausted, frustrated, and completely unwilling to continue watching her mother make the same emotional mistakes. When she finally confronts Leslie, Eva does not soften the truth simply to protect her feelings. Instead, she tells Leslie exactly what she believes she needs to hear, explaining that her mother is still stuck on her father. Eva makes it painfully clear that she hates watching Leslie remain emotionally trapped by something that may never happen, especially when there is a genuine opportunity for happiness sitting right in front of her. Her warning cuts deep because Leslie appears to be caught between what she knows is realistic and what she still desperately wants to believe could happen. Eva tells her that she is willing to throw away a sure thing for a never going to happen thing, and that blunt assessment forces Leslie to look directly at the choices she has been making. It is the kind of conversation that hurts precisely because there is truth behind every word. That confrontation with Ava may become the turning point that finally pushes Leslie into action in the weekly Beyond the Gates teasers. Sometimes it takes someone outside the situation to say the words a person has been desperately avoiding, and Eva seems determined to break through her mother's emotional denial. Leslie may not appreciate the reality check in the moment, but it could force her to make a decision she has been postponing for far too long. Her feelings about the past, her complicated connection to the present, and the possibility of a future she has not allowed herself to fully embrace are all colliding at once. Eva's frustration comes from watching her mother repeatedly reach for something that may never be hers, even while another possibility continues slipping through her fingers. That makes their conversation more than a simple mother-daughter disagreement. It becomes a painful attempt to force Leslie to choose between fantasy and reality. And if Eva's words truly push Leslie into action, the consequences could ripple through several relationships before the week is over. The complicated history involving Ted, Nicole, and Carlton adds another emotional layer to the story. Because of Ted's own actions, he lost Nicole, and the pain did not end there because he then had to watch his best friend and business partner begin dating his ex-wife. For Ted, that situation must have been incredibly difficult to accept, especially when the relationship was unfolding right in front of him. Yet over time, Ted eventually made peace with the reality that his marriage to Nicole was truly over, and something unexpected happened once he reached that acceptance. Rather than continuing to resent Carlton, Ted actually came to prefer Nicole being with Carlton instead of Kiel. In fact, Ted went so far as to tell Nicole exactly how he felt about the situation. It was a surprising moment of emotional growth from someone who had every reason to remain bitter, and it suggested that Ted had finally reached a place where he could look beyond his own hurt. But now the past tension between these two men is about to resurface in a very different conversation. Next week, Carlton and Ted come face to face, and their exchange carries the weight of everything that happened between them. Ted admits that there were many days when he wanted to deck Carlton, a confession that reveals just how much anger and resentment he once carried beneath the surface. Carlton does not run from that history, however, and instead responds with a bold challenge, telling Ted that if he still wants to work that out, he is sitting right there. The moment carries a strange mixture of humor, tension, and old hostility because both men understand exactly how much history is packed into those words. What could have become another explosive confrontation instead becomes an opportunity for them to acknowledge the bitterness that once stood between them. Whether they can truly move beyond it remains uncertain, but the fact that they can finally confront the past openly suggests that something has changed. For once, their history may not have to control their future. Then the tone shifts dramatically when Vernon pays a visit to Bill in the hospital. This is not a simple bedside visit filled with sympathy or concern because Vernon has something much more serious on his mind. He wants answers about Bill's intentions toward Danny, and he is clearly prepared to confront him directly even while Bill is recovering. Vernon is not interested in polite conversation or empty reassurances, especially when Danny's emotions and future may be involved. Bill quickly makes it clear that his illness has not prevented him from understanding what is happening around him, telling Vernon that he is sick, not blind. But Vernon is not impressed by the response and instead cuts straight through the excuses with a blunt demand for honesty. The question hanging in the air is impossible to avoid. Is Bill trying to rekindle something with Danny? That confrontation could become one of the biggest moments of the week because Vernon is clearly done playing games when it comes to Danny. His response to Bill is simple and forceful. Cut the crap and tell the truth. Whatever Bill may be feeling, whatever history he still carries with Danny, Vernon wants to know whether there is a genuine intention behind his actions or whether he is simply taking advantage of a complicated emotional situation. Bill's illness may make the circumstances more delicate, but Vernon refuses to allow sympathy to silence the questions that need to be asked. The tension between the two men suggests that this is not going to be an easy conversation, especially when Danny's name is at the center of it. And with Andre simultaneously dealing with Heather's return, Danny could soon find herself caught between multiple men carrying complicated feelings about her. As the week unfolds, the line between old love, unfinished business, temptation, loyalty, and betrayal is becoming dangerously thin. By the end of this preview, one thing is clear. August 17th, 21 is shaping up to be a week where the past refuses to stay buried. Andre is being drawn dangerously close to Heather, just as his relationship with Danny is already struggling. Leslie is being forced to confront an uncomfortable truth through Eva's brutally honest advice, and Ted and Carlton are finally acknowledging the anger that once threatened their friendship. Meanwhile, Vernon is determined to uncover Bill's true intentions, and he will not accept anything less than a straight answer about Danny. Even the lighter moments surrounding Naomi's celebration and Chelsea and Kat's business ambitions carry the unmistakable reminder that family history is never far away in this world. Every reunion seems to carry a secret. Every conversation seems capable of changing a relationship, and every decision threatens to create another emotional fallout. With old feelings resurfacing and new confrontations waiting around every corner, Beyond the Gates is setting the stage for a week where nobody can hide from the truth forever. And as these tangled relationships continue to collide, the biggest question may be what happens when the people involved can no longer separate yesterday from today. Andre may believe he can control his encounter with Heather, but the emotional history between them makes that increasingly difficult. Heather has already found a way into Danny's orbit, and now that Andre is standing face to face with her again, every memory they share has the potential to become a new threat to his marriage. There is something almost unsettling about how naturally Heather and Andre fall into each other's space, because it suggests that whatever happened between them in the past may not be as finished as Andre wants everyone to believe. Even if Andre has no intention of betraying Danny, temptation does not always announce itself as a deliberate choice. Sometimes it arrives disguised as familiarity, nostalgia, and unfinished emotions. And with Danny already sensing that something is not quite right, the smallest mistake could be enough to expose everything. For Heather, however, this reunion may be about more than simply reconnecting with someone she once knew. Her earlier attempts to become friendly with Danny now look increasingly suspicious, especially after it becomes clear that she has been secretly reaching out to Andre and sending champagne to his wife. That combination makes it difficult to dismiss her behavior as innocent coincidence. Heather seems to have carefully positioned herself close enough to Danny to observe her life while simultaneously maintaining a private connection with Andre. The question is whether she has returned because she genuinely still cares about him or because she wants to reclaim something she believes she lost. Either way, Andre is now trapped in a situation where every interaction with Heather carries consequences. The past has found a way back into his present, and the closer he gets to it, the harder it will be to convince Danny that nothing is happening. Meanwhile, Leslie faces a completely different kind of emotional reckoning, but Eva's words may prove just as powerful as Heather's presence is dangerous for Andre. Leslie has spent so much time looking backward that she may have forgotten how much damage that habit is causing in the present. Eva sees it clearly, and her frustration comes from watching her mother repeatedly sacrifice something real for the possibility of something that may never come to pass. Her statement about Leslie choosing a never going to happen thing over a sure thing is not simply criticism. It is the desperate plea of a daughter who wants her mother to stop hurting herself. Leslie may have spent so long protecting the fantasy of what could have been that accepting reality now feels like giving up, but sometimes accepting the truth is not surrender at all. It is the first step toward finally moving forward. That is why Eva's confrontation could have consequences far beyond the conversation itself. If Leslie takes those words seriously, she may finally stop waiting for the past to become something it has already proven it cannot be. She could begin making decisions based on what is actually possible instead of what she wishes were possible, and that shift could dramatically change the balance of her relationships. The emotional stakes are especially high because Leslie is not simply choosing between two people. She is choosing between two versions of her own future. One path keeps her tied to old hopes and old disappointments, while the other requires her to accept that life has moved forward without giving her the ending she once wanted. Eva may have delivered the truth harshly, but perhaps Leslie needed exactly that kind of wake-up call. Now, the real question is whether Leslie will listen before another opportunity disappears. The story involving Ted and Carlton also continues to carry an unexpected emotional weight because their relationship has survived something that could easily have destroyed it. Ted once had every reason to resent Carlton, especially after losing Nicole and then watching his best friend become involved with his former wife. That kind of betrayal can leave scars that do not disappear simply because people decide to move forward. Yet, Ted eventually reached a point where he could admit that his marriage was over and even recognize that Nicole might genuinely be happier with Carlton than with Kial. That acceptance does not erase the pain of the past, but it does show that Ted has changed. His upcoming conversation with Carlton could therefore become less about settling an old score and more about finally acknowledging what they both went through. Still, when Ted admits how many times he wanted to hit Carlton, it becomes obvious that the old anger has never completely disappeared. Carlton's response makes the encounter even more fascinating because he refuses to treat Ted's admission as something frightening. Instead, he almost challenges him to settle the matter if that anger still remains. There is an edge to the exchange, but there is also something strangely freeing about two men finally saying out loud what they once kept buried. Their friendship and business partnership survived a painful chapter, but survival does not mean the wounds were never there. Now they have an opportunity to look directly at those wounds rather than pretending they never existed. Whether the conversation brings genuine closure or simply exposes another layer of unresolved resentment remains to be seen. Either way, the fact that Ted and Carlton can stand in the same room and confront their history suggests that their relationship has entered a new chapter. And then there is Bill, whose hospital room becomes the setting for one of the most direct confrontations of the week. Vernon does not arrive simply to offer comfort, and Bill immediately understands that something else is driving the visit. Vernon wants to know what Bill intends to do about Danny, and he is unwilling to let Bill hide behind his current circumstances. Bill's response that he is sick, not blind, carries a sharp confidence, suggesting that he knows exactly what Vernon is trying to uncover. But Vernon is not there to trade clever remarks. He wants the truth, and he wants it now. When he tells Bill to cut the crap and asks whether he is trying to rekindle something with Danny, the conversation suddenly becomes much more serious. Whatever Bill has been feeling or planning can no longer remain hidden behind vague explanations. The confrontation also puts Danny at the center of an increasingly complicated emotional storm. She may not even realize how many people are making decisions around her based on their feelings for her, but the consequences are already beginning to gather. Bill appears to have unfinished emotions. Vernon is protective enough to demand answers, and Andre is dealing with the unexpected return of Heather at the exact moment his relationship with Danny is vulnerable. That combination creates the kind of pressure that can eventually force hidden truths into the open. Danny may soon have to confront not only what other people want from her, but also what she wants for herself. And if Heather's intentions toward Andre are as serious as they appear, Danny could find herself facing a betrayal that began long before she ever realized there was a threat. Even the more celebratory moments surrounding Naomi carry emotional significance because they remind us how fragile happiness can be. Jacob, Ashley, and Grayson are trying to create a beautiful memory for Naomi while she is dealing with the frightening reality of her father's health problems. Their toast and cheerful salute moment offers Naomi something she desperately needs, a chance to breathe, smile, and feel surrounded by people who care about her. Yet beneath that happiness lies the knowledge that the celebration is taking place during a difficult chapter of her life. Sometimes the most meaningful moments are the ones created in the middle of uncertainty, when people deliberately choose to celebrate despite everything weighing on their hearts. That warmth provides a brief emotional refuge before the larger family dramas begin closing in again. And in a week filled with betrayal and confrontation, Naomi's celebration could become one of the rare moments when happiness is allowed to exist without conditions. But the Dupree family cannot escape its own complicated history for long, as Chelsea and Kat quickly discover when Anita reacts to their business proposal. Their excitement about the Nikki is met with resistance because the name touches a much deeper nerve than they anticipated. Leslie's habit of calling Nicole Nikki means that what Chelsea and Kat may have considered a harmless or clever business name suddenly becomes loaded with family meaning. Anita's threat about disowning them may have a humorous edge, but underneath it is a clear warning that she does not want them playing with names and memories connected to people she has strong feelings about. Their business dream is still alive, but getting Anita's approval may prove much harder than they expected. And in a family where personal history and business are constantly intertwined, even the smallest decision can become a major source of conflict. Ultimately, the coming days are building toward a series of emotional collisions where nobody will be able to remain comfortable for very long. Andre will have to decide how much of his past he is willing to allow back into his life, especially with Heather standing so close and Danny already vulnerable. Leslie must decide whether Eva's painful honesty will finally break her free from an impossible hope, while Ted and Carlton are forced to revisit the anger that once threatened everything between them. Vernon, meanwhile, is determined to make Bill answer the one question that could reveal exactly where his heart stands when it comes to Danny. And through it all, Naomi's family tries to create moments of joy, while Chelsea and Kat discover that even a business idea can become dangerous when family history is involved. The emotional lines are being drawn, old wounds are opening, and new choices are approaching fast, making August 17th, 21 feel less like an ordinary week and more like the beginning of another major turning point on Beyond the Gates.